Average cost and marginal cost functions. Let's look at the definition. The average cost function is a function that will calculate the cost per unit of output. So let's take a look at an example on how to find an average cost function. So you are producing sneakers at a local factory. The cost in dollars for producing X number of sneakers is C of X is equal to 7,500 plus 205X. What is the average cost function? Before I give a general function that can find the average for any number of sneakers, I would like to first figure out an average for a specific number of sneakers. So what if I needed to produce 50 pairs of sneakers? So everything will begin with this cost function. So now it's time to evaluate for a specific number of sneakers. In this case, we will be calculating the cost for 50 pairs. So I must first enter 50 into my cost function. Now, if I follow the order of operations, I will multiply. So I'll bring down my 7,500 and I'll multiply 205 times 50. And that gives me a total of 10,250. Now I can add. So the total comes out to 17,750. That is the value for producing 50 pairs of sneakers. And this brings me to my following question, the one that I am really trying to get to. How much is each pair worth? So that isn't too hard to figure out. We know how much 50 pairs cost. So let's take the total, which is 17,750. That's the total cost for the 50 pairs. And then just divide it by 50 pairs. Once I do this, that will give me the cost per unit of output. So let's divide 17,750 by 50. The total amount comes to $355 per pair of sneakers. So herein lies the method on how to find an average cost function. Even though this is very specific because I only focused on how to find the average cost of 50 pairs, the main idea is we have to understand how much will it cost for all 50 pairs and then divide it by 50 pairs. So what if I were trying to find a function and I didn't know how many pairs? I just wanted to know what function will calculate all of this every time. All right, so writing an average cost function. Just like in the previous example, we will first have to know how much a total will be. So the cost function will give me the total cost. All I have to do now is divide it by a certain number of units. So I divide it by X, which represents my number of units. So what's the difference between average cost and marginal average cost? We know the average cost of 50 pairs is $355 per pair. So when we say the marginal average cost, basically we're trying to find what the average cost of an extra pair would cost and figure that difference. So let's take the average cost for 51 pairs of sneakers. And as you can see here, you can see my input is now 51 pairs, and I will be dividing by 51. So let's calculate the cost of 51 pairs. So I have entered my number of pairs, and now I will start evaluating. So we have $7,500 plus 10,455. That gives us a total of $17,955. So the cost of 51 pairs of production is 17,955. So now let's go back and calculate this. If I divide that by 51, that gives me an average cost of $352.06. This is the average cost for 51 pairs of sneakers. So now we're going to figure out what our marginal average cost is. Now that I know the average for 51 pairs, I can subtract the average of 50 pairs. And what that does, that gives me $352.06 minus $355. And that gives me a negative $2.94. This is my marginal average cost. Now let's take a look at the quickest route to figuring out the marginal average cost using calculus. Using calculus to find the marginal average cost. So simply put, you take the derivative of the average cost. So therefore, all we would have to do is take the derivative of the average cost. So specifically, this is how you set up an average cost function. My average cost function was 7,500 plus 205x, and I can divide that by x. So that's my average cost function. Now I will simplify it by dividing both terms by x. So I have 7,500 divided by x plus 205 is now simplified. And from here, I'm going to write it in an exponent form. And the reason being is it will be easier to take my derivative when it's in this form. So now let's take the derivative of the average cost function. By using the exponent rule for derivatives, I get negative 7,500 x to the negative second power, and then I rewrite it back into fraction form. That will be easier to make my calculation next. So what if I were trying to find the marginal average cost for the production of 500 pairs of shoes? All I need to do is enter $500 into my derivative function. And when I divide it, what I would get is roughly negative 3 cents. This basically means that if I were to make an order or produce 501 pairs, That would be 3 cents cheaper than making an order for 500 pairs. And we can verify everything that we just did. So let's look at the average cost for 500 pairs. That's $220 per unit. Let's look at the average for 501 pairs. That's $219.97 per unit. And basically, that verifies that it is 3 cents cheaper than what it would cost to do 500 pairs.